We want to teach you how to be an awesome real estate agent and a business owner, but we also want to teach you how to be a better human being. And that's equally as important to producing and selling real estate at a high level.
Welcome to the Raquel Show. This show is for entrepreneurs who want to play bigger in business and in life. And today I have a very special guest that I met through another mutual friend and coaching client. What I love about this person is his drive and his grit and his ability to execute very quickly. And many of you guys know that I absolutely love working with action takers. He's a 3 times icon agent. And for those that don't know, it really just means that he absolutely crushes it in his business and in his market. He's super ambitious. And I can't wait for you all that are listening in to know him. So welcome to the show, Reilly Nicholls.
Thank you for the outstanding introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to jam with you today. And so why don't we just tell the audience, what has led you to what you do today? Kind of tell the audience a little bit about you and what you do today.
Sure. Okay. So I got into the real estate space when I was 21. I'm 27 now. I'm starting my 6th year in real estate. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do on my entrepreneurial journey at first. So I grew up playing sports. I played football for a very long time. So learned a lot about culture and teamwork and hunger and grit and adversity. And I played football from I was 8 years old until university when I was 20. Started my first test of grit, I guess, if you will, in university, because the University of Calgary program is a very hard program to get into. And I was a good football player, but I wasn't good enough to get invited on a scholarship basis. So I called the coach and I said, "Hey coach, give me a shot." And he's like, no, your tape's not good enough. I said, okay, no problem. So for my senior year in high school, I was at the gym every single day at 5 a.m. I got my studies up to honor roll in grade 12 because my grades were not good enough. So you had to have a certain level of grades, obviously, to get into the university at the same time. And after my senior year, I said, hey coach, I called him again, probably 5-6 times until finally he said, hey Reilly, you can come to spring camp. So showed up to spring camp as a walk-on athlete. And then afterwards, I crushed it and I got on the team. So that was my first little big test of will, I guess. Fast forward, went to university for the first year. I did well. I had a good year. It was fun. But then I kind of realized I don't want to go to school. I wasn't taking courses and classes that served me. And I was literally just there to play sports. And I thought that was what I was meant to do because I had done it for so long. And then I was like, okay, something's got to change. So I dropped out of school. I had a conversation with my football coach in front of the stadium. And I went up to him and I said, hey, coach, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the experience. It's just not for me anymore. And I had worked so hard for that. And it was almost like my dreams were being shattered. And he looked me in the eye. And this is a very intimidating man. This guy's 6'5". He's militant he's an amazing coach, a really good human being. And he looks at me and he says, Reilly, if you quit now, you will fail at everything for the rest of your life. I was like, damn, okay. So I took that on the chin. That was a little chip on my shoulder. And then I dropped out of university. I was really depressed after that. I didn't even know what to do, right? I had lost my entire identity. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I was a landscaper in the summertime, just working construction, trying to make ends meet. And then I was a plumber. I did commercial plumbing for a year. Absolutely hated it, right? Trying to, maybe get a trade and try something else. So for people out there that are trying to start their entrepreneurial journey, sometimes it's not as rainbow and butterflies as it seems. You might have to try a few things before you actually get something that sticks. And then after plumbing, I quit that too. So my coach was right for a little while. And then I got into car sales. So I did car sales for a year. I loved it. I made decent money. I learned about credit. I learned about people. I learned about sales. So I got some really good experience doing that. And then afterwards, I just started getting hungry. I'm like, okay, I'm good at sales. I like talking to people. How can I do this at a larger scale? So I had $20,000 saved up. I quit my car sales job again, gave my 2 weeks notice, quit on the spot. I had no other income coming in. And I just said, I'm going to get my real estate license. Well, I had a buddy who was doing it for a few years, and I was like, he's doing okay, but I can do better. I know I can do better. I have the confidence that I feel like I can do better. So I got my real estate license. I completed it in the first 5 weeks. I just got it done as fast as I could, and then jumped into real estate. I was not on a team, didn't have a whole lot of mentorship and support in my first year. And then I was able to make like $270,000 in my first year, which was more money than I had ever seen before. And that was my 21-year-old kid. That was my first year. And then haven't looked back since.
Wow. What a story. First of all, you now all can hear why I say this guy or this young adult has all the grit. There's a lot of mindset stuff that probably happens with the quitting and starting something else. Like, what did you actually have to change? Or did you ever doubt yourself? Like you said, that when your coach said that, you were almost depressed. How did you actually get out of that? Or how did you just keep going? Especially like right now with like the economy and the market shifts, there's people that are having to transition to a place that they're a little uncomfortable. So how did you get through and push through all of that?
That's a really good question. So it was really difficult, and it still is, you know what I mean? Like even that first part, like I was really depressed, like not suicidal, but I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to lay at home and just do nothing because I was paralyzed on what my next step was. I just didn't know what's my game plan. And I think one of the things that really helped me was just consuming more content to keep me in a positive mindset all the time. So there were books that I started to read, like Tony Robbins books and different podcasts. And I wasn't exposed to that kind of information, in my teens, like when I was like 18 and 19, because I was busy being a delinquent. But when you start consuming the right content and getting the right stuff in your brain, you can at least start to calibrate your mindset and start to strengthen it, because it's like a muscle, right? The more it's like garbage in, garbage out. If we're constantly consuming poor media and we're not taking care of our body and we're not reading the right books, speaking to the right people, that downward spiral is just going to continue. I really turned heavily to self-development. That was a big thing for me. So I started reading every single day, and then also just trusting the journey. You know what I mean? Just knowing that it was all going to work out. And this was just a season in my life, right? That may have been my first winter, but after winter comes spring, and after spring comes summer. And I knew that was my winter. And I stayed in the winter. You know what I mean? I put my winter coat on, I put my boots on, I put my gloves on, I put my toque on. And I'm like, the winter's not going anywhere. I just got to get ready for winter. Like it might be minus 30 outside. What am I going to do? Sit here and die? No, I'm going to go find my boots, put my jacket on, handle my business, and wait for spring. So that was kind of the mindset that I had to shift.
Speaking of minus 30 degrees, I'm sure the audience is wondering, where are you located?
Thank you for reminding me. So I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It is currently minus 15, I think. And I'm staring at 2 feet of snow outside of my office window. It's been snowing for the past 2 days. So it's beautiful. We have good skiing and snowboarding, but there's a lot of snow here right now.
It's a little bit different than Scottsdale, Arizona. So where's the team today, 6 years later? Fast forward, where is your business at today?
So including myself, we have 7 agents. We're in the process of onboarding several more that we're super stoked to be a part of. We've got some transaction coordinators. We have an amazing admin team. We have an amazing client care team. My partner, Sydney, runs that. She is dialed in on everything that we do. We're kind of honing in on that 100 million in volume and obviously looking at scaling up from there. And we're really proud of the brand we built, and we're just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
A lot of people get into the real estate space and aren't able to build a team or let alone lead a team. What have you learned? That sounds like a really big operations, and you're onboarding even more agents. What have you learned as a leader when it comes to building a team?
That is an amazing question. So me being a 25 or 26-year-old kid, let's call it, trying to build a team, I've gained a lot of life experience over the years because I've been through a lot of things, but it doesn't make me a good leader, right? So I had to develop my leadership skills, and anybody looking to build a real estate team out there too, I realized that I can sell a lot of real estate solo, and that's great. That's awesome. You can make money and have a good career, but selling real estate at a high level and running a team or an organization and leading a team is two completely different things. And I was in for an extremely rude awakening when I first tried to start building a team, because I had not developed my leadership qualities to a point where people wanted to be led by me. And that was a big, not a slap in the face, but it was a big realization where it's like, okay, why is the team not working? The systems were there, the leads were there, the brand was there. All the components that you would think would make an awesome team were there. So I'm like, what's missing? And I had to turn to myself and look myself in the mirror and be like, you know, what's missing is you. You're not leading these people. You're trying to be a manager. You haven't developed your own leadership qualities to a point where people actually want to be led and create the vision and the organization. So I had to really go back to the drawing board, again, back to self-development, you know, seeking guidance from people who have already paved the way, putting my ego aside and understanding that I do have a lot to learn still. I am still learning every single day. I'm always trying to be a better leader. And leaders are always learning and growing. It doesn't matter if you're John C. Maxwell, leadership king, he is still learning how to be a good leader. And I really had to like turn inwards and be like, okay, the common denominator is me. So what do I need to change about my leadership skills? How can I be a better leader? How can I serve more? And that was the key factor for me. And I obviously continuing to work on that. I'm not perfect, but I've been steadily getting better and better as we kind of progress and keep building.
You know, that is so well said. And I don't think that just applies to real estate teams. I think it applies to all organization, especially when you're in that visionary CEO role and you lead so many different people. And you said one of the best like people when it comes to leadership, which is John Maxwell, which is a mentor of mine. And one of the things that I have noticed is, speaking of leadership, is one of your mission is creating real estate leaders. Why is that important for you?
We don't have enough real estate leaders out there. And we don't want to just create high producers. We want to create real estate leaders within the industry, agents and business owners that people look up to, right? People that you can reach out to them if you need help, if you need guidance, if you need support. You know that we want to create real estate leaders that are pillars within the industry, not just myself, but everybody on the team. And that's a big thing with our brand too, and our culture, and something we talk about too, is like, we want to teach you how to be an awesome real estate agent and a business owner. That's obviously why we're here, right? But we also want to teach you how to be a better human being, right? How to be a better dad, how to be a better mom, how to be a better leader, how to be a better servant, how to be a better entrepreneur, and just how to be a better human being in general. And that's equally as important to producing and selling real estate at a high level, right? If we can teach and coach and help, and we can create this organization where we're producing at a high level, but we're also creating culture and strong human beings, that's awesome, right? Like that's fulfilling, and it's an amazing feeling. And frankly, we need more people like that in the world because there's not enough of them.
So well said. And there isn't enough leaders. There's even not a lot of producers or visionaries, I think, in this world. So like the fact that you have that at the forefront of your mission, I think is awesome. So on the flip side, what do you think has been your biggest challenge when it comes to running your team? Or why do you think most people don't become leaders and just stay in the solo world or solo entrepreneurship?
I think that one of the biggest challenges that we found is you cannot motivate people, right? People motivate themselves. And people in CEO or leadership capacities, they try to motivate people. And just because you as an individual are motivated, your brain is generally wired a little bit differently, right? I can say, you can say, hey, Reilly, you need to do X, Y, and Z to get X, Y, Z, and I'll just go do it. But we're not all wired that way. People are all wired differently. So that's been a huge challenge. It's like, okay, we can't motivate people. So what do we have to do? All we can do is create an environment for people to succeed. So how can we create an environment for people to be successful? Well, we can have all the tools and resources. We can have coaching calls. We can create culture. We can create branding. We can create resources, training. All of those things can comprise an awesome environment for people to be successful. And also accountability. That's a huge thing. You have to have accountability within an organization because people are, and that's for real estate, that's for anything. If you don't have accountability, you don't have anything. And to tail on accountability, with accountability, you need consequence. And it's tough to provide discipline to human beings. So how do you provide consequence with accountability? And that's a threshold that you have to kind of figure out within your organization also. So motivating people has been the biggest thing, and getting everybody producing at a high level, but in a way where they're doing it from within. It's not just doing it because they're being told by somebody to do it, because it's not everlasting, right? There's no longevity in that.
Yeah. One of the things that's really hard, and you kind of mentioned it, for leaders to do, or for people that lead other people, is to sometimes have fierce conversations, or like you said, consequences. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that some people are wondering, like, what are some of the consequences? Because you have a really big culture of results, of outcomes, of success, right? So if somebody isn't motivated or somebody isn't doing, what is like one example of one of your consequences?
So we've got our client care team that obviously books qualified appointments for our agents on the team. And if they're not achieving certain standards and certain accountability protocols, we're just going to shut off the tap for the lead flow, right? And that's an easy way to just say, hey, if you're not holding yourself to the standard that we know you can, if I know Raquel can operate at a 10, and if you're always hanging out in a 6 or 7, and I know Raquel can be at a 10, then we're just going to cut off the lead flow for the next 2 weeks. You'll be out of rotation for a bit. Another small one is every Friday we shoot team content, right? That's a fun time. We go out and shoot a new neighborhood. We hang out, we go get coffee, like we go get lunch. It's like a fun team building thing. And if you haven't hit your numbers that week, guess what you're doing? You're not coming to team content. You're going to be prospecting instead, because that's our fun time on Friday, is shooting content and hanging out with each other. And you haven't earned your fun time unless you put in the work Monday to Thursday. So those are like 2 small little consequences. Again, it's tough to discipline human beings, or adults, I should say. So those are 2 little metrics that we try to play with to just keep everybody on track.
I love that. And speaking of content, speaking of branding, you're really big on that. And a lot of your business also comes from the online, world. How important do you think brand is moving forward for your business?
So huge. So one of the things that when we talked about building a brand, we knew that we would need something that people could buy into, something where we could cast a vision for other people. And me being an individual top producer, I knew that I would never buy into the Reilly Real Estate team, the Reilly Nicholls team. And I have nothing against people who have first name, last name team, right? Because there's a ton of them out there, and there's a ton that are super successful. So I got nothing against that. But it becomes much more difficult to cast a vision if you don't have a brand that people can buy into, because you want people to come to you and be able to identify with that brand as their own versus an individual on a pedestal. If you have a leader with their name plastered everywhere that is sitting atop a pedestal with all his or her peasants that are helping work for them, it doesn't create longevity and a good vision. Versus with a brand like BRIX that we created, that's something that everybody can buy into. I'm not BRIX, like Sydney's not BRIX, and we're all BRIX, right? That's their brand. It's not my brand, it's our brand. And that's what we're doing. And I've done a really good job of trying to eliminate I from my vocabulary. Everything is we. And we all the time. We're going to get there. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And that's been huge. So branding and culture and having something people can buy into, that's been big for us.
So good. So where does BRIX come from?
That's a good question. So I'll be honest where it came from. So I'm not very creative. Sydney's also not very creative. We're very logical thinkers. And there's a company out there called Frozen Lemons. It's I think it's a company in the Netherlands. So you send them what your key value props are. Like, okay, we're this, and this, and here's a brief description. And then you send it to them, and they have creative writers that will actually send you back different names and why they chose them. So I paid $500. We sent out our whole dialogue, and then they spat back a few other things. I think there was one called BRIXy. So we cut off the Y because we really wanted a 4-letter poppy kind of brand. And then that's what we rolled with. We took the design and the idea to our graphic designer that we've used for years. And then we got really creative with like keeping it on point, keeping it modern, having a really solid brand and just like going after a more modern approach. And then that's how it was born. We've obviously built like culture and different things around BRIX now. Like it represents like being solid and trustworthy and professional and all these other things that have kind of evolved. But the initial part was just an idea executed by a company in the Netherlands.
Oh my gosh, what a neat story. I had no idea. And when I thought bricks, I thought like foundational bricks, like you said, strong. And so I thought that's really, really cool concept. And speaking a little bit more about brand, you're really big on social, right? And I think one of your posts said, the temptation to quit will be the greatest just before you're about to succeed. Love that. And where does like your drive come from?
I think a big thing for me is just like, I want to be the best version of myself. One of my big fears, like I've been afraid of death my whole life growing up. It's a weird fear. Like when I was in kindergarten, I remember I was 6 years old talking to my mom. I'm just like, hey mom, like, where do we go when we die? Like we didn't come from a super religious family. So I didn't really have any context on how to process that at a young age. And even growing up, like it's shifted now, but there is still that fear of like, what am I leaving as a legacy when I leave this earth? Right? The fear of the unknown and the fear of death drives me like crazy because I know that our time as a human being on this earth is limited to X amount of years. So I wanted to condense that as much as I can into a really short time frame so that I can get to a point where we can serve other people and have a big impact on this earth at a really big scale. That's the be all end all. Like we don't want to just live a life and then not create abundance for tons of people and have a huge impact for people, right? When I have my funeral, I want there to be millions of people there, not because of ego, but because that's how many people we were able to serve. And that's how many lives we were able to change. That's a big thing for me, is just becoming the best version of myself. And the only way to get that done is just, massive action every single day as much as I can.
I love the mindset of abundance. And I know that with that big of a mindset comes the risk. And so my question to you is like, what's the biggest risk that you've taken that you could look back on your journey so far that it's given you the biggest reward?
So I've had several risky things, many, but this one is the best story. So I'll share this one. So my first year in real estate, I had $20,000 saved up, which seems like a decent amount of money to start. Now, I'm a perfectionist by nature. So I wanted to have my branding on point. I wanted to have my business cards and my signage and my online lead generation. Everything needed to be perfect in the first month. So guess how fast I blew through that 20K very, very quickly. So I had $20,000. I had a $15,000 line of credit and I had a $10,000 credit card. So those are my three little main components when I first got into the industry. So within 2 months, I burned through the whole 20K. I was like, all right, sounds good. That was a good start. I had not sold anything, by the way. So this was July 2017. And I was going crazy on lead gen. I was spending probably $2-3 grand a month already. I'm just like, trust the process. It's all going to work out. Whatever. This is fine.
Yeah.
It's just, that little, the meme where it's got the dog and everything is on fire and he just says like, this is fine. That's how I felt. Yeah. So then another month goes by and I maxed out the line of credit. So then I was done at that point. All I had was my credit card. Then 4th month goes by, I maxed out my credit card. So I literally have $0. Like I have no money, not even zero. I was negative like 35K at 21 years old, hadn't sold a house yet, nothing. So I was really feeling the heat. At this point, I was working like 80, 90 hours a week. Like I was in the office at 7 a.m. and I would leave at like 9 o'clock. Like the lights were off. It was dark. I was the last person in there. And I was renting an apartment with a roommate at the time. And our rent wasn't crazy. It was like maybe $1,600 or $1,700 that we were splitting, but I had no money. Right. So that was still a lot. But I had a 4Runner. I had a 2002 4Runner and I knew it was worth 5K. So I'm like, okay, I got one asset left to play with. So I moved back into my mom's house because I was like, hey mom, I'm coming back to the nest. I'm out of money. Like I got to come home. Like give me a few months. I'll be good. but I got to come back home. And she's like, okay, no problem. Good to see you again. Then I sold my vehicle. I was like, I need money. So I sold the 4Runner. I got 5K back. I put it all back on lead gen. Like I doubled down again. I was like, this is do or die. Like this is do or die.
Yeah.
Then coming from the car industry, I have good credit, and I did at the time too. I knew that through TD Bank, I could finance a car with 6 months of no payments. And I knew that from coming in the car industry right before, because I'm like, I need wheels, but I could finance a car 6 months, no payments, because then I can still have wheels, but I don't have a payment. And then I could cash out my 4Runner, take my 5Gs and pump that back into the real estate business. So I went and financed a $45,000 Lexus with 6 months, no payments. So now I'm negative 35,000, living at my mom's house, sold my vehicle, financed a $45,000 car with 6 months, no payments. And I did that to put even more pressure on myself and push myself into a deeper corner, because I know that when I'm back that far in the corner, I believe in myself to get out of there. So I get the car. I had my 6 months, no payments, no money. And then on month 6, from month 6 to 12, I sold 36 homes. And then I made 260K. So then I paid off all my debts, paid off my lines of credit. Obviously I had my car payment then, but that car payment created additional pressure for me to just continue to move on, as if there wasn't enough pressure already. But that was just like, really clamping down. That was the riskiest play. And everyone thought it was crazy. They're like, I can't believe you're doing this. This is the worst decision you've ever made. And I was like, don't worry. It's okay. It's all going to work out.
Sometimes the worst decisions become your best decision in life, right? Because there's so many lessons that we learn. And you got to do all of that and put it all back because you believed in online or in leads, right? So, and I know we talked about it a little bit, but like what systems do you think are a must for people that are investing in their business or taking that risk to invest in lead generation or online leads?
In the lead gen space, I mean, you have to, like, what I really liked about it is it was predictable business. So I knew that I could have inbound opportunities coming in at all times. And as a new agent, I needed a way to create experience as quickly as I could. So I wanted to have as many conversations, real estate conversations as I could, as fast as possible. I wanted to go on as many appointments as fast as possible. So that was the key for me in getting into online lead gen in the beginning, because I liked the predictable opportunities and I liked the fact that I could just rinse and repeat over and over and over. If you're looking to get into online lead gen and use that as a pillar of business, you're going to need a online lead gen provider, obviously. We use a program called Chime, which is a great program. There's Real Geeks, there's Real Estate Webmasters, there's KV Core, there's lots of these lead gen platforms. And they kind of have two components. So you have the front face of your website, which is what the consumer sees. That's where people are going to look at properties and request information and look at your blog and things like that. And then you have the back end CRM interface, which is where us as agents actually operate out of. So you have those two components. And then generally you'll have a third party that's running your Google traffic to push traffic towards your website. And that can be done through the website provider, or that can be done through a third party provider. And then you can scale that relative to ad spend on how much you want to have come in. So we really like that predictability component of it. If you do lead gen, you just have to have a system and a process behind it, because you can burn through money very, very quickly. And it's a very expensive way to run the business model. And I also think that it's important to not just solely rely on that, because you should have a few different pillars of business as opposed to just one. So we love this because it's predictable, but you don't just want to be a one-trick pony, because all of a sudden, if that dries up for whatever reason, you need to have other ways to cultivate business as well.
Diversification always helps, especially when it comes to different streams of revenue, especially in a business. So what is next for Reilly? What are you most excited about that you're working on?
That's a very good question. We're excited to just continue to partner with awesome agents. We've been working a lot on our systems and our back end stuff, really working on our client care department. Sydney's been spearheading that with us and getting that stuff rolling. it is a very daunting task to build out the back end infrastructure to scale and have a large organization. And we've been working on that for a really long time, from the back end stuff in Sisu, our transaction coordinators. All of our back end infrastructure has been built to scale. It's been very expensive, which has been very stressful. But now we're in a position where we can start bringing on new talent in droves, right? We're excited to bring on 5, 10, 50, 75 agents and really start to scale and grow the brand because we're ready for it. So that's what we're super pumped with. A more micro thing, we have a team retreat coming up on November 19th. So the whole team, we're all going to go to Banff. We're going to have an awesome night out on the town, have a great dinner, hang out in the hot tubs, a cold plunge. We've got a small piece of the hotel lobby booked off for like a fun vision meeting, which we're super pumped about. So yeah, there's a lot of good things coming in the cooker, and yeah, we're excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I love that. And I always say that there's no better time to attract the type of agents that you want, especially when you got the infrastructure and you got the culture. You can't beat that. So where can people connect with you if they're interested, if they're in your area, if they want to like connect with you further, where can they connect with you?
So our best place to connect, well, we're working on our YouTube page big time. So you can search BRIX Real Estate Group. So that's BRIX Real Estate Group. You can find us on Instagram also at BRIX Real Estate Group. My personal page is Reilly the Realtor. So Reilly the Realtor. Those are probably our 3 primary spots if you guys wanted to connect with us. If you're a local agent or looking to move to Calgary and you're wanting to sell real estate here, I mean, give us a call. We'd love to meet you. And yeah, you can call me directly if you really need to. That's 403-701-0338 if someone needs to talk to me directly.
I love it. And we'll also put that in the show notes. So in case you guys didn't catch that, just check the show notes. So as we wrap up, there's always one question that I ask every single guest on our show is, what does Reilly do to play bigger in business and in life?
I think always just putting one foot in front of the other and trusting the process, right? That's something that everyone in their entrepreneurial journey struggles with. We're all looking for what's going to happen at the end, right? How much money can I make? How big can my organization get to? We're all focused on this goal over here. And even myself too, I have to catch myself. I focus on the journey, and I'm really doing a better job of just trusting the process and going through the journey. Rome was not built in a day. And I know that if we continue to just put one foot in front of the other, do exactly what we know what to do, we have the tools, we have the resources, we have the culture, we have the support, we're going to get there. It's just a matter of time. And you only fail when you quit. And I will never quit. So we're not going to fail because we're never going to quit. If we don't quit, we're not going to fail. And it's a little mantra that I always tell myself: if you don't quit, you'll never fail. If you don't quit, you'll never fail. I also have my football coach, Blake Nill, shout out, my boy, that says I will quit or I will fail, but I certainly will not. So that's probably the biggest thing.
I love how you still like wrap that at the very end. So I want to say thank you so much, Reilly, for being on our show. I super appreciate your time. I appreciate you as a human being and how you absolutely show up. And I am so excited for the journey ahead and to keep playing bigger with you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Raquel. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for having me on. You're an amazing woman. So thank you.
Thank you.